It seems like every civilization in history had a few animals they revered above all others. It's only natural given the fact we've shared the earth with animals pretty much the whole time we've been around. Whether it was dragons, bears, cats, or dogs, one way to tell which animals were favored is by seeing which ones turned up in artwork the most. Today we're going to take a look at some ancient sculptures and carvings from early human history and see what kinds of gem and mineral materials they were working with. If you were a prehistoric artist, you worked with what you had. In the case of our first carving, that was animal bone, particularly the tusk of a woolly mammoth. This piece is called Swimming Reindeer and depicts two reindeer that were, well, swimming. Looking at antler size, we can tell the female is leading the way and the male is bringing up the rear. When it was first found in France in 1866, the reindeer were separated. And it wasn't until the 20th century that someone realized the two pieces actually fit together to form one piece of art. This sculpture dates back about 13,000 years ago to the Magdalenian culture found around Western Europe. They lived between 17 and 12,000 years ago near the end of the Ice Age. One thing that's cool about this carving is that since it was made by a human from a mammoth tusk and depicts reindeer, we could deduce that, at least for a while, all three of us coexisted. Pretty cool, huh? Now let's talk about the tusk. Like their great-grandbabies, the elephant's mammoth tusks are made of ivory. Its hardness of 2 to 3 makes it great for carving, and the whiteness it presents when it's processed made it popular in ornamentation for a very long time. However, a number of sanctions have been put in place to protect the declining populations of the animals that produce ivory. There is a material, however, that acts as a brilliant ivory replacement, vegetable ivory. Also called tagwood nut, it comes from the seeds of certain palm trees and has a similar hardness to animal ivory, around 2.5. You need tools like hacksaws and files to carve it, and it even looks like animal ivory, but it's all vegan. It's used anywhere you might otherwise find ivory: knife handles, dice, jewelry, and shirt buttons. In fact, at one time, about 20% of the buttons produced in the US were made from vegetable ivory. Since the advent of plastic, the use of both ivory and tagwood nut has fallen off significantly. But the Magdalenians were a long way off from plastic, and like I said earlier, you worked with what you had. At least they probably acquired that ivory tusk the hard way. Up next, we have a different locale, different time period, different material, and a different animal. In fact, it's more like a combination of two animals. I'm talking about the kneeling bull with vessel. They don't try too hard when naming these, do they? This statue stands around 6 or 7 inches tall and was found in Iran. One of the interesting things about this guy is that he had the head of a bull, is in a human kneeling pose, but has hoof hands, combining human and animal attributes together. Now, this wasn't too uncommon among ancient cultures. The Egyptians had many deities that were human-animal hybrids, and you've probably heard of minotaurs and centaurs. Let's talk about what it's made of: silver. Silver is one of the most famous precious metals. It has been used throughout history in jewelry, silverware, and coins. It's pretty ductile and malleable, meaning it can be drawn out into a thin wire or flattened into sheets. This makes it pretty good for statue work. In its natural raw form, silver formations are really cool. It's part of the isometric crystal system like pyrite. Unlike pyrite, however, cubes of silver are very rare to find. Instead, it usually forms in arborescent or dendritic forms, meaning tree-like and fern-like respectively, and can take on surreal, twisting shapes. Have you ever seen one of those videos where they pour molten aluminum into an anthill and when it sets, it looks like some sort of Tim Burton forest? Kind of like that. Back to the bull. One interesting thing about it is that it's not silver all the way through. It's not even silver plate on some less precious material. It's actually hollow with little pebbles inside it. This, combined with its size fitting comfortably in one hand, has led some people to believe it was used as some kind of noisemaker for ceremonies. A maraca minotaur, if you will. Our next statue is found next door to Iran over in Baghdad. It's about 5,000 years old and stands a little over 3 inches tall. It was described by Sotheby's auction house as one of the last known masterworks from the dawn of civilization remaining in private hands. The Ghetto Lioness was sold for $57 million, and at the time, in 2007, was the most expensive statue ever sold. That's like $17 million an inch. And it's not like it was made out of gold or diamond or something. It's It's made of limestone, which is a pretty humble material. However, it comes from one of the most important times and places in human history, Mesopotamia circa 3000 BC. This statue was made at the same time the wheel was being developed, cuneiform writing was coming about, and the first cities were taking form. This lioness is part of the story of our baby steps as a civilization, and for that reason, it's priceless. Well, I guess more like $57 million. Anyways, let's talk about limestone. Limestone is a sedimentary rock often made of the crushed skeletal forms of ancient ocean life, aka sediment. It's been used for millennia as a building material and is still to this day as an essential component of concrete. It's also used as a white filler in toothpaste and as a soil conditioner. Way back in the Middle Ages, it was used in castles and churches. The famous Great Pyramids of Giza were made of limestone as well as granite and had a covering made entirely of limestone. What a sight that must have been. Limestone's low hardness makes it great for detail work, as seen in the lioness, but not great for tall buildings. I guess no one told the Egyptians. Lastly, we have a carving from a completely different part of the world. This one is also made of stone, but a slightly more valuable one than limestone. This C-shaped dragon was found in Mongolia and is known as a pig dragon due to its pig-like head. It comes from Hongshan culture, which dates back between 47,000 and 29,000 BC. These pig dragons are cited by some as the original ancestors of the more modern Chinese dragons of today. They represent the earliest stirrings of what would become a national identity. Cool. The design is neat, but let's talk about the jade itself. There are really two kinds of jade when you get down to it, nephrite jade and jadeite jade. Their hardness falls between 6 and 7, so they're fairly hard. Their tight, interlocking crystal structure is what gives jade excellent toughness. If you want to hear about toughness versus hardness and why a gem battle between diamond and jade might be closer than you think, click here. Imperial jade describes emerald-colored, translucent jade, but jade can come in blue, yellow, reddish, white, and purplish. Nephrite jade is pretty common, while jadeite jade is more rare and thus more valuable. You may be wondering which one our little pig dragon friend is. Well, due to the fact there are no known sources of jadeite in China, it's safe to assume he's likely made of nephrite. Jadeite didn't make its way to China until the 18th century when it was brought over from Burma. Even though little Mushu is likely nephrite and not jadeite, we still love him. That's all for this time, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and tell me, what would you like your statue made out of? Leave your answer down below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell. You don't want to miss out on future videos. Catch you later.